Oh God, I sounded really Scottish there. Sorry. Hello, everybody. Hello. Welcome to today's panel session, Connecting the Dots: How Data Integration Boosts Your Insights. I'm really excited for today's panel. But first of all, let's see. Oh God, everybody's in the chat already. Like, we've got a few people. So yeah, let me know who you are and where you're from so we can see how international our audience is today. So we've got Jane. Jane is a long time attendee, and I know where Jane is from, although she doesn't tell me. She's there from New Jersey. Sorry, everything's going now. Oh God, there's too many people to try to chat at the same time. We've got Minnesota in the house. We've got Bulgaria, London, Germany. We've got Brazil. We've got more from London. We've got New York. Oh, I can't actually see the ones at the top because too many people are typing. We've got more Brazil. There we go. We've got Devi from London. Hello. We've got Carla from Sao Paulo in Brazil. Sankit from India. Okay, great. We're getting there. We're getting international. Oh, there we go. Another country, Argentina. Hello, Victoria. Welcome, everybody. I am very excited for today's panel because this is I would say this is a topic that's very, very, very close to my heart. And we've got Norway. Look, we're really getting there with the different countries on the go. So hello, Jane from Norway. We've got more people typing, but let me just get up my presentation here so we can just get the general housekeeping out the way, and then we can have all of the fun together. Okay, so someone's saying that they can't hear me in the chat. The moderator's chat. Can everybody hear me okay? Am I just talking to myself? Okay, Diana's come through. Perfect. Okay, that's fine. It looks like it's only Anna that is. I think it's only Anna. I think it's only you. So hopefully you'll be able to switch out your headphones maybe, and we can get going with that. There's always a tech mishap, isn't there? Always, always, always. So let me just get this up so we can get all of this out of the way. So as I mentioned, this is Connecting the Dots: How Data Integration Boosts Your Insights. And for those of you who do not know me, I am Dr. Gillian Nay, and I am the founder of the Social Intelligence Lab. I'll tell you a little bit about us in a second, but first of all, I want to get the housekeeping out of the way. So today's session is being recorded, and you will receive this in your email about half an hour after the session has ended. So they will be edited a tiny little bit and then shared with you. We always say, watch it back, because there's always something that you missed the first time around. And I would love it if you think that the session is valuable to somebody else on your team or someone in your network. Please do share it with them, because we only grow properly when through word of mouth. And I would highly appreciate that if you were able to share. So today's session even is interactive. You've already found the chat, so you know where the chat is. Please talk to each other, leave your questions, your comments and everything in there. Lillian, hello from Brazil. We've got quite a lot of Brazilians in the house today, so hello. So get your questions ready. Sometimes the chat can pop off and it can be very intense and hard to keep up. So sometimes we just need to let it go. If that happens and you do have a question that you really, really, really want to get answered, pop it into the question functionality. There's a Q&A functionality too, and it alerts me here. And it means that I need to do something with it, because like sometimes I think there was like over 500 messages one webinar. Like it was far too much for anybody to handle. Hello, Justin from Seattle. It is very nice to see you here. So, in the case of any technical issues, we've already had the first one. Please stay on the line. There is a process for getting us all back online. And one thing that is not in here that saddens my heart a little bit, but is something that we need to start seeing because it's come up a few in the past few panel sessions, is that this is an educational session. This is not a promotional session. So if you are promoting your services or your technology, the comment will be removed, and you may also be removed from the session as well without any prior warning. So please do not use it to send out those kind of messages because they are not enjoyed, they are not liked, and everybody on the session does not like them either. Vikram's from Dubai. Hello, Vikram. So unfortunately, we do need to start saying this because some people are actually trying to do that now, which I guess is a sign of growth, but is also highly annoying. So for those of you who do not know, we are a community dedicated to advancing the value of social and internet data as a source of insight. Our biggest mission is to create a recognized discipline for social intelligence. Now, because you're all here, I'm guessing that social data is all of or part of your work. And I would imagine that you would also think that having a recognized discipline for your profession is a very good thing. So tomorrow we actually meet with our membership steering group for our first meeting with them, and then we will be rolling out membership from Q4 onwards, which is highly, highly exciting. Being able to bring everybody in the industry together to be able to have one voice so we can get things like standards and benchmarks, and we can actually advocate, I'm going to lose my voice, we can advocate for getting better data access and things like that as well. So really looking forward to that. But first of all, congrats. Thank you, Jane. But first of all, let's talk about today's session and everything. We've got some we've got a good session today. So today's session has been sponsored by Loxius. They worked with us on the state of social listening, which this panel session is part of. Hi Alex, welcome in. I'm just going to give a quick introduction to Loxius, and then I'll let you introduce yourself. So Loxius have been going since 2014, but they've been going under Polis Consulting, but now they're Loxius AI. And it's been inspired by Apollo's wisdom. Loxius delivers affordable, quick, and insightful solutions to help guide brands through challenges and make data-driven strategies simple and effective. Sounds very good, Alex. Alex, would you like to give a quick introduction to yourself while I get our other panelists in, please?
Hi, Jillian. I thank you very much for this kind introduction. I couldn't have done it any better. We are in the industry since 2014. We are an agency, a global agency with a presence in the Americas and in Europe, focused on social media intelligence only, and also a value-added reseller of some leading brands such as Brandwatch, Hootsuite, Social Insider, All Ears, and Nebula. Very excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you very much. And thank you so much for all of your assistance and input into the state of social listening, because we could not bring that report out unless we've got partners like yourself helping us to be able to deliver that. So I think that everybody here and on the call will appreciate you helping us out with that one, Alex. So next up, Melissa Davies. Melissa has been with us for a great number of years now, on and off. So Melissa, would you like to give an introduction, just in case there's people out there that do not already know you?
Sure. Thanks, Jillian. Thanks for having me. And I see some familiar names in the chat. So nice to see everyone. I'm Melissa Davies. I lead social intelligence and trend spotting at Mondelez International. Mondelez might be a name you haven't heard of, but we make some snacks you probably know, like Oreo cookies and Cadbury chocolate and some other ones. So I've been in social listening quite a long time. I don't want to date myself. I feel like a total dinosaur here. But before Mondelez, I've done social listening on the consumer health side at Johnson & Johnson, and also on the supplier side at Nielsen BuzzMetrics. So really excited to chat with the team today.
Thank you. Anna, you're up next.
Hi, everyone. It's my pleasure being here with you. I've been working with almost like 13 years with social intelligence and digital intelligence as well. And nowadays I work with financial industry, and in the past years I've been working as social listening too, and especially specialized in digital intelligence as well at Meta and other agencies here in Brazil. So my pleasure being here with you.
Thank you, Anna. And Lisa, you're up next.
Hi, everyone. I'm very excited to be here. I'm Lisa Diaz, Director of Digital Insights at the movie studio Lionsgate. I'm sure you've heard of some of our most popular franchises like Hunger Games, John Wick, Twilight. We have a few exciting movies coming this fall. And as I mentioned, very excited to be here because I've been in social listening for about 9 years now. Prior to Lionsgate, I was at Ralph Lauren. And then prior to that, I was on the vendor side at Brandwatch. So yes, a lot of familiar names, and I'm very excited to talk with you all.
Okay, amazing. So yeah, I think Jane's put it quite lightly. We have a powerhouse panel here. So everybody get strapped in, get ready to engage, because it's no good when we're just talking to each other. Get happy in the chat, ask us questions. We're more than happy to do that, and make sure that you're getting answers for the things that matter most to you about being able to connect different research methods and data sources in. So let's just get started. So I think that the big thing for me here is that every year when we run the state of social listening, there is something that keeps on showing up. So we do ask everybody how they're using social data. Are they combining data sources? Are they blending research methods? And a lot of people do say that they are. But when we start to dig a little bit deeper and do one-on-ones with people, we find that this is not as connected up as what you might think it is just by looking at the responses to the study. Sometimes it's dashboards and there's a bit of Google Trends and things like that that's weaved in, and other times that there has been other research, but it seems to be that it's been disparate. It's not been quite built together as a mixed method study, but they've just kind of squashed it together after the fact. So we're mixing data sources and trying to mix our methods. And again, I think that sometimes this doesn't always overcome the criticisms of social intelligence and the fact that we're still stuck in silos. So we've got social over here, we've got, I guess, research, interviews, focus groups, and all the kind of other consumer research over there. And I think one of the big things, and I know that I've been banging on about this now for 2 years, is the thing that we call insight often depends entirely on what's easiest to pull. Sometimes it depends on the department that you sit in, and it's not necessarily what's actually needed to understand consumer behavior. So what we need to be able to do is connect across platforms in different modes. So in this particular session, we're going to talk about stitching all of this together. And I have our powerhouse panel here to help us be able to do that. So we're not just looking at dashboards, but we're going to start looking at how we blend real approaches to be able to change how we interpret behavior, challenge assumptions, and help our organizations to be able to make better decisions. So that was probably one of the longest introductions I have ever given. I do apologize to everybody for that. But what we're going to do is we've got the various different topics that we want to speak about for this particular subject. So the first one is about why social alone might not be enough. So social itself does give us access to the wild, to how people talk to each other. It is a messy reality of what people say, but it might not give enough, or does it give enough to truly understand people? So, Melissa, do you want to kick us off and to help us understand a bit more about the limits of using social as a standalone data source?
Sure, I will. I mean, I think probably everyone on this call has gotten the question from a stakeholder. You're going to do social listening, but is it a representative sample of my target demographic, of known past 30-day buyers of my product, right? And of course, the answer is no, it isn't. And yet, it's still representative of what real people really think about your product, your competitor, your issue, your topic that you're focused on. So I always say social is one really important window into what's going on with our audience, but it's not the only one. And we want to be able to look at other data sources and bring them together so that we can really get that full, well-rounded picture of everything that's going on.
Great. Anybody else got anything to add to that?
Well, I think one thing that I've experienced that I'm sure everyone in the chat and everyone on this panel's experienced as well is I think people think of that social listening is the equivalent of mind reading. And so a lot of times we'll get very specific questions about, oh, I want to know exactly, like using an example from a previous role at Ralph Lauren, how do people feel about our towels? And it's like, well, people aren't really going to Twitter and posting like, oh, my towel's so fluffy, or it's a little bit, flimsier than I would want it. And so I think I totally agree with Melissa. And I think part of that is like you get different types of insights in depth from different data sources. And I think that a lot of times people get very excited about social listening, which is an amazing thing and gives us a lot of support and backing. But then they also think it's like this way that we can read everyone's minds, not really understanding how people talk from platform to platform.
Yeah, I completely agree there. It's like sometimes one of the things that we teach everybody in our certification program is that when you start to do this work, you don't just take in the request and do what they're asking you to do. And Melissa, I always use your example of, we all know how people eat Oreo cookies. We're not going to do social listening on that as an example. And we teach people to go back and ask, what is it you're trying to answer for, and how do you want to be able to use this, so you know if whether or not this is going to be useful for, like, social intelligence is going to help be able to answer that question. Because sometimes they'll ask you, what do people think about the towels? But they want to know how people use towels in general. Like there's a bit of a difference there. So Alex, I know that you're doing a lot of this type of work at Loxias. Is there, how are you starting to combine these different data sources, different research methods with your client?
Yeah, so basically, the big issue of social data is it's mainly declarative. We haven't found yet the holy grail, which is to correlate social media data, for example, to buying behavior, to buying decisions. Yeah. So, but maybe one day we are getting there. So we have to combine the social media data with other data. This is what we are doing with behavioral data, for instance, from customers, because at the end of the day, as Melissa already mentioned, it's just one of many different data sources we need to analyze to get to a big picture. It's a very important one, but we must be careful not to use it as the truth. Yeah, it's just a facet. And what we are doing with our customers, we are combining publicly available data via API and correlate it to their proprietary data. And there are a few interesting things. We did a project. This was not with the customer. We did this ourselves. We stumbled across a research paper where someone in the US correlated at the time, X data, Twitter X data, with the stock evolution. So, I mean, who wouldn't want to know how a given stock moves by analyzing Twitter data? And so we did the very same thing. And in fact, we found some very nice correlation. Yeah. So you have different data sources, again, social via API, Twitter data plus stock movements. We are doing currently, and I don't know, you said we are not supposed to make any commercial, but this is for your very webinar on September the 24th. So you are all invited to join us on the 24th.
Alex, you're always breaking the rules.
The CLAB hosts hopefully a very interesting webinar on September the 24th, where we show how the different data sources change the narrative. Yeah. So we are looking at Squid Games, the final season, and we are analyzing the traditional social media data, mostly text. And then we enrich it. We look at audio, we look at video, and then we look at a balanced approach. And then we show how the narrative changes by looking at different data sources. Yeah. So in fact, I think we all in the market are constantly doing this, trying to enrich what everybody has access to with mostly proprietary data. Or in the case of the webinar, we use IMDb data and some other data you can buy, basically. Yeah. But I think I spoke much longer than I should have. But
that's okay. You're all good. You're very passionate about what it is that you do, Alex, and I think that we all love that. Anna, I know that you are blending different kinds of data sources in your work. But I think, has there ever been a time, this is a hard question, and I think everybody else can follow on to this if you're game, but has there ever been a time where you've just looked at social data, and if you had looked at that alone, it would have led you astray?
Yeah, totally. I just want to add something that Melissa and Lisa said. It's great because social listening is always questioned because it's been treated for years as a quick fix, just dashboards and volume accounts. And for me, like that creates the impression that insights are superficial, reactive, and disconnected from business outcomes. And definitely it's not the issue. So the reality for me is like the social listening, if not explained as a methodological choice, gets seen as noisy and anecdotal, and for me, just like you said, Gillian, I always take the time to explain the framework that I usually do here in my day-to-day activities. Declarative data, and sometimes when we are put the focus on social listening, basically is what people say, and behavioral data is what they do. So, for example, if we are connected in a campaign with app and with Apple Store or Play Store, we can understand more about the product issues that people usually say. But on Instagram or TikTok, sometimes they are usually inspirational comments for influencers and when the campaign itself. So for me, it's all about the context, platform context is exactly like the reshapes of meaning. For example, in one project for me, YouTube comments carried deeper discussions, and Instagram, for example, showed only surface level of comments engagement. So for me, it's all about the context. I don't know if you agree, guys, but sometimes we really need to understand more about the platforms itself, not only about the blended, mixed methods,
Yeah, I mean, that's something that there's something that we've been trumpeting about for quite a while, because it is very different. And I think there was a webinar, I can't remember the month, but there was a webinar that's happened this year that was about specifically the differences in the different data sources, and what might happen. And there was one of the examples that was given, it was talking about some kind of sports shoe that came out, and on YouTube, I can't remember the exact, but one place hated it, one place loved it, and then one place was like full of runners and things like that, and they had a completely different opinion. So you do need the choice of your data source matters, but what about having to do we need to then, okay, we've got all of these different data sources that's in social, and someone's mentioning search that's in the chat, and Anna mentioned about the Google Play Store and things like that. Is that enough, or do we still need to have other primary research that's going on, do you think?
I think it's important to be aware of, there's sample bias in every type of data that we might pull. What is the sample bias of the data set you're looking at? In social, it's the choice to participate. There are people who might be lurking and listening, but not participating, or they're choosing what they want to share. So that's one type of sample bias. And survey, you have a different one, which is also, I guess, down to, choice to participate. But I did a great project back when I was at Nielsen, so it's been a while, but we were looking at listening versus asking. So what could we learn through social listening research compared to what could we learn through survey? And we studied a bunch of different topics. This was actually presented at the ARF. So the topic I studied was focused on parents and how they made the choice between cloth diapers versus disposable diapers. So the survey data gave us a ton of great information on product attributes, what product attributes drove parents to choose cloth diapers over disposables. And the survey also really aligned well with sales data in terms of actual market share. So the percent of survey respondents who said they use cloth diapers matched up to the percent of sales in the market for cloth diapers, right? In the social listening data, the percent of people talking about cloth diapers was way overrepresented. So it came through as though this was the most important topic, when the sales data would have said that was different, right? But the people who were talking about cloth diapers were also talking about this entire lifestyle that goes along with it. It was making your own organic baby food, breastfeeding to a year, gentle discipline techniques, co-sleeping or family bed, this entire ecosystem or lifestyle that lives around the choice of cloth diapers, that would give you so much more rich information about the parents and about the audience for that particular product that we would never have gotten through the survey, in part because we actually didn't know to ask those questions in the survey. So by bringing together survey for that quantification and sales for the market share and social for the qualitative richness, we really got so much more information than we would have gotten through any one of those sources alone. But you really have to just be aware of, what's the bias of each one of those sources, and then how we bring them all together to tell that story.
Definitely. It reminds me, I read something recently and it was about the microplastics and about how it's reached mainstream. And I'm like, it's not, it's just a very noisy conversation. And you find that with a lot of environmental things. And I'm guessing that quite a lot of the thing that you found within there was about the environment as well. So I think one of the things that we're saying is you can't just read the data. You need to understand the context behind which everything has been created. And picking up on Anna's point there, on social, people don't just talk freely. They're often reacting to campaigns and media coverage and things like that. And you do need to be aware of that. Anybody else got any examples like Melissa just shared there with work that they've done across different blended research methods?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to, both in fashion and most recently every day at Lionsgate, I would say we're pretty, collaborative, especially with the traditional research team that focuses on survey data, all of the traditional research methods. I think what we do with Lionsgate, I mean, social listening is involved in every part of the movie making process, from deciding whether we acquire films to greenlighting films to, particularly if it's an IP adaptation, meaning like if we're thinking of making a book into a movie or a video game, etc. We use social listening, musician, biopics, etc., all the way through when a film releases. And just to give an example of what we would do in like the pre-production process. So a lot of times we'll get a request from production. Hey, there's an opportunity for the rights for a particular book. What does the data tell us about this book? Because they definitely want to make sure that, especially in today's, movie going climate where people are very selective, the bigger movies are bigger than ever, but, people are going to the theaters less and less. So they want to make sure that when they're greenlighting a film, when they're acquiring a film, that we are, using all of the data we have to make sure that it's a data-driven, informed decision. So a lot of times what we'll do is on the digital insights side, which is the vertical I lead, we'll start working on all our queries and all of our search data and compiling everything together, while the traditional research side, they're running surveys, et cetera. And some of the questions that they're asking, are very similar to what we're looking for. They're asking, are you aware of this book? How do you feel about this book? Who are the characters that, really resonate with you for this book? And, would you want it? What's your interest level to see this book adapted into a film? And then simultaneously, we're looking at what is the conversation around this film? What's the volume? What's the sentiment? Which characters pop in social conversation? What looks like most salient about this particular book? And then we'll kind of come together and put it all together, usually in a deck or some sort of document. And what we're looking for, because a lot of which I have experience with and totally understand, it's like, surveys telling us one type of data and socials telling us this type of data, and the level of depth and what we're surfacing is different. We're actually looking for alignment. So we're looking to see like, okay, what is the awareness level? And does like social support that, or does it contradict that? And if so, why? And so what we're doing is we're saying, okay, here's an survey sample. Here's how many people are aware of this book. And then here's how many people talk about it. And then we're threading the through line in terms of like, if there's a lot of conversation and a high level of awareness, we're kind of molding that together and telling a complete story of like, this is something people are very aware of. When we're looking at characters that pop, we're looking at like, okay, are the same characters popping on social that are popping through survey results and open ends? And why are there any differences? But what's interesting is what we usually find is that they are very aligned in that particular use case of like what people are aware of and what they're talking about on social. And if they're not, it's really interesting to get creative to understand why they may not be. And then just to kind of go further into the movie making process quickly, when we're actually in campaign for a film. So as we're in the sprint leading up to release, we're constantly looking at volume of conversation compared to comparable titles and comparable film titles at a similar point in time relative to release, and seeing like, okay, what's the level of conversation compared to these comps, benchmarking, what's the level of, Wikipedia page views compared to comps. And then we're also looking at like Google search data as well. And then what that's telling us, and I think this speaks perfectly to Anna's point about sometimes we'll see a high level of engagement on our own channels, but search is low compared to comps. And so we'll say like, well, what does that mean? It means that like, yeah, using franchise films, for example, John Wick fans, they're already bought in. They love this film. They're excited for it. But if we're not seeing like the same level of search as we are social engagement or social conversation, that may tell us that, oh, this is very insulated to this one John Wick community. It's not really breaking through. So we'll look at search data and social data side by side, but think about it as like, okay, earned conversation. That's telling us if we're cutting into the zeitgeist, if people know about our film, if people are getting excited, if it's becoming a part of day-to-day social conversation, which I mean, with Wicked and Barbie and Sinners, you can tell is really essential for the success of a film, versus, search really tells us, if you want to go see a movie and find the movie times, you're going to search for it. So that's showing us, and that's very correlated to box office. So that's showing us, is this actually translating into people wanting to see the movie? And then that can affect and impact, ad spend and what we're doing in those final weeks of the campaign.
Amazing. So there's a lot going on in there. It's incredibly exciting. I think the thing that would make me most excited was when you didn't find the same thing as the survey, because you're like, why? Like, what's happening here? But that's just me not having to figure out the why part of it.
Yeah.
Alexandra, do you have any examples to share?
Yeah, totally. I just want to add something that Lisa said. It's really amazing about the search data and the social data as well, because for me, like the most authentic signs often come from the places where people don't feel they need to perform. So as a persona, so as you know, like search queries, app reviews, private messages. So people basically create their own identity, respond to social norms in social data and in digital environment as well, in general. So everyone here, like me and yourselves as well, like we adapt the moral codes, in our own community. So basically, especially nowadays, when we are talking about HR and AI situations, we need to be acceptable, like in a professional way in public. So I think this often happens in our campaigns as well. So many people usually say I can say frustrated things in a private messages, and then like the Instagram and everything around public situations, we usually see people not too much stimulated to talk very sincerely, I can say. So I think maybe I can tell like 2 or 3 specifically examples for me that happened in a situation that I usually see pre-campaign interviews, I can say combined with social data as well, and then the post-campaign reactions and engagement, and then we combine this kind of situation and we mixed it. So basically, when we are talking about the experience before, people usually don't express itself during the pre-campaign interviews, obviously, because of the situation, the context, the influencer. And then when we understand the post campaign, we can understand more about their reality, the situation, the influencer itself. So when we combine these 2 kinds of situations with interview and offline behavioral data with social data, we can understand more what was invisible, like the pre and the post. So for us, it's really great to understand more the contextual situation itself. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Alex, do you have anything else, an example of work that you've done where you've blended different research methods?
Yeah, I have a question to everybody and Lisa in particular. Of course, we are using also a lot of search data for correlation. We are going through a paradigm shift with ChatGPT and the likes. People using less and less Google or other search engines. Lisa, how do you see that, and how do you react to that?
Well, this is very timely because we are now just starting to have those conversations around Gen AI data and where we get that from. And actually, last week I was a participant on Meltwater's customer advisory board, and that's exactly what we were talking about. Of like, what does the future look like for actually using the Gen AI data versus the Google data? Because I think I saw a stat where this is the first year in a long time that Google searches have actually gone down year over year because people are going to Gen AI. So the short answer is we haven't figured it out yet, but we are actively having that conversation and trying to figure out, because it can be very indicative, and also just understanding like how people are asking for things. One idea that we talked about was, and I've personally done this with totally unrelated to work, is like, okay, let's say it's a week over the summer. I know summer break just ended, but it's like, oh, I want to, take my children to a movie, but I want to do some sort of activity and I don't know what to do. Like, hey chat, can you give me a list of all the movies that are in theaters and which one you recommend? And I've done that where I'm like, okay, I'm hanging out with this specific group of people. Here's what we like. ChatGPT, like, what do you recommend on Netflix? And so I think all of those insights are very, very rich for us and also are very impactful and influential. But in terms of like an actual technical solution to capture that Gen AI data, it is a conversation that's actively happening that we are still learning about and trying to figure out what's available.
Yeah, we found this as an emerging product category in our SciTech landscape this year. So in the directory, there are tools out there that is pulling up the data just now. But yeah, there's lots of bigger, more larger discussions that need to happen on that. This is probably a good point because Martin came out with a question as well. He's saying curveball question, but it's related to Gen AI. So we've got the Gen AI and we've got the understanding what it's recommending and everything like that. But his question is, with Gen AI around, is anybody using it to combine and analyze data? Is there any results or issues with these models? So I guess like blending your survey and your social data together. Is anybody doing that?
I'm not using it for mixed methods, but I am using Gen AI and like really kind of pushing the limits and expanding what we can do in a short amount of time. I would say one of like my personal key use cases for Gen AI is, a lot of times with social data, we get these extremely large data sets, and we know that sentiment, it's not something we can just take and put a package and put it in our report. So that's always, I'm sure we all have our tricks of the trade on how to quickly do sentiment when there's 2 million mentions and we know it's not right. But I think what I've been able to do, especially when you get into like trailer launches. So trailer launches for us are a goldmine because everyone's telling you exactly how they feel about your product. And it's usually a big burst of data. And to Anna's point earlier, which I think is so important, every single time how people talk about our trailer on Reddit is completely different than how they talk about it on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, etc. So if you were just looking at our trailer results and comments on Instagram, you may think it's 99% positive, but then go to Reddit and you can see people have a lot of feelings and a lot of differing opinions. That aside, what I think Gen AI has been very helpful for is like very quickly, especially with trailer reporting, we're generating reports, flash reports every hour, being able to like really quantify like the different shares of conversations across different categories. So using an example of Good Fortune, a film we have coming up, I was able to like download all of the data from our social listening tool and then using Gen AI say like, okay, how many people mention this specific thing, which is, yes, we can query for and use Boolean, but I find that like with Gen AI, it's a little bit faster. And so then the level of depth in my Flash Reports actually goes a lot deeper than it did before, because instead of, QAing and having, we still, of course, QA, because I asked Gen AI to show me everything it's categorizing. But outside of that, it's like, it's doing all the math, it's doing all the Boolean, instead of doing Boolean, it's doing it for you. So I think that that's really the key way that we've used Gen AI.
Thank you.
I think there's so much great insight there, Lisa, from what you just shared. And I totally agree with you. I feel like Gen AI can help me by helping me check that the biases or the blind spots that I bring to the research don't, sort of put the finger on the scale too much to the overall process. If I'm writing the Boolean query, maybe there are additional terms that I didn't think of or that I don't know about that, Gen AI can help to add in for me. If I'm looking for topics, we've been talking about it in the chat here. I still want to do sorry, my dog is trying the chat. I still want to do the deep dive into what are consumers talking about and what's important to them. But I love Gen AI as just sort of a quick look at what is going on in the discussion and what are the big themes that I want to make sure that I'm going to go and look into as I sort of delve deeper.
Excellent. Anna, Alex, are you using it in any other different ways?
Process optimization for our report factory. I like Melissa's use case. We do exactly the same. When you define a Boolean query, you get what you ask for. But the nice thing about Gen AI is you don't know what you don't know, and maybe you find something you haven't even thought of. So we're doing this as well. There are some interesting companies. Trajan, I hope I pronounced this correctly, where Lisa, you were talking about meltwater and brandwater. Of course, they are all, the whole market is trying to go after this data. And I found this a very interesting company to look at to get this specific search data. It also Gen AI helps us to we have a cyborg model when we do in the report factory. So I don't believe that
cyborg model. What's a cyborg model?
Oh yeah, it's it goes back some 20-30 years when a very intelligent person found out that a very modest chess player using a very powerful algorithm can beat the most powerful chess algorithm or the most powerful chess player any day. Yeah, so this this combination between a highly trained specialist using different algorithms, this is like the 1 + 1 = 3. We really believe in this. So for our report factory, this is how we get not only productivity, but also quality. It's really cool.
Oh, excellent. Great. Thank you. So, Anna.
Yeah, just to add something here. Usually here in Gen AI, we are often using with emotion categorization that helps us to identify and detect whether people feel like not only positive or negative in neural language process, NLP, in English, but also to understand more about the nuanced emotions, like frustration, anticipation, relief, and stuff like that. So to create this emotional map, we can understand more about the process, usually around social data. It's extremely helpful to understand more about the hypothesis and to guide us to deeper analysis as well.
Mm-hmm. No, great, because it seems as though that every panel session we do, Gen AI comes up, but I think that we've started to see a consensus here between the four of you and the chat as well. And it seems that the Gen AI is quite useful for topic modeling and segmentation. so that's the first time we've actually ever been able to see quite a clear consensus between between everybody. So I guess that the maturity and the understanding is starting to come from it, which I find that really interesting. So we've got about 15 minutes left in the session today. So if anybody has any questions for the panel, for anything that you want to ask, pop that into the chat. But I'm going to start. I've got a few questions here for you. So we've talked a lot about kind of blending data and how to do that and blending research methods, but let's talk a little bit about the barriers. There sometimes can be too much. So how do you ensure that this data integration isn't becoming overload and you're just going to have a million different holes in your research? Does anybody want to take that one up?
Yeah.
I think the key, from my end, especially as, we're expected to have all of these different data points in our reports, is really comes from like the human intelligence side and the analytical side of just like making it and telling a story with the data. So, instead of, and that's something that, we really try to focus on, because a lot of times, there's a slide on survey data and a slide on social data and a slide on search data and then some on audience data, et cetera. Some from Twitter, some from audience search insights. Well, I see my dog tried to join too. Here, there is another dog on.
Oh,
It seems like from the chat, dogs are welcome. But so there's all these different data points. And instead of it being a large data dump, like we really put an emphasis on like taking a step back and saying like, what story does this all tell? And to your question, Jillian, it's like, sometimes it all tells the same story. And we just thread the needle and we say, okay, there's no social conversation on this book. No one's ever heard of it. There's low awareness. We can take away that this is a book with a very small niche fan base. Whereas, it really does get interesting when it's the data tells different stories at different points. And so then that's where we come in and we really analyze like, okay, why is this, like, what indicators do we have to understand why this is telling a different story? And I think that all really comes from our analysis and like how we weave it all together, just knowing that, there are certain data points that people are looking for that they want to see that we'll always include. But agreed, like if we just put them all in a deck, it becomes a data dump and it's not really clear like what that tells us. So I think for us, it's really about like coming in, with as an insights team and really like taking a step back and telling a story with the data.
I think the storytelling is so important for us as insights teams in general. And Lisa, I like the example you're sharing. I feel like in a lot of cases, so many of the other data sources that we might be using are very quantitative. Sales data is quantitative only. It has nothing qualitative about it. Search data is pretty quantitative. Survey data is often very quantitative. So for me, I've found it really great to use the quantitative data and then just kind of bring social in along the side for more qualitative exploration. What does this look like when consumers are talking about it? I might be using the social maybe in a less qualitative way then. Maybe I'm not even, quantifying the volume of discussion around topic A versus topic B versus topic C. Instead, I'm just saying, we know from our survey, we know from our sales data, we know from this other data, whatever. And here's what it sounds like when consumers actually just talk about that on social media, so it's sometimes just one nice juicy quote or one great TikTok video in the room brings the consumer back into the consideration and helps people think about, oh, right, that's how this sales data comes to life. That has been a great use for me. So as I think about it, it's less of an integrated use of social and other data sources. It's more of like a sequenced use. I know something from this other data. Now I'm going to go into social and kind of explore further. But that has worked well for me.
Yeah, I totally agree with both of you. Another thing that just popped into my mind is that another important point of view, when we can transfer what people are actually saying in quotes, like instead of positioning ourselves like this insights team say, or the analytics team say, we avoid personalizing the process, It shifts for me like the focus away from our interpretation and back to the audience's or own voice, I can say, that makes the insight more retailable. I can relate for me, like the harder to dismiss, the ultimately more powerful to drive decisions. Because nowadays, I totally agree. Like, it's not the technical issues. I think it's more organizational issues. Like, teams are structured in silos. Social here, analytics here, marketing there. And sometimes insight gets shaped by convenience, like what's easiest to pull instead of what's needed exactly. So totally agree.
No, thank you for that. Completely agree. Now, Alex, you were going to say something right at the start of this conversation about the overload. Would you like to come into the chat now?
Yeah, without being hopefully redundant, less is more. So in our methodology, we the key thing is when we start a project to really understand how to map the data sources to the narrative and to the customer. However, having said that, we also do as a control group always, Lisa put this very placatively, a data dump, just to make sure that we didn't lose anything, but we focus very strongly. But then again, we do like a shotgun to see if something important, we missed something important.
Brilliant, thank you. Now let's go back to what Anna was just talking about there, and I think Anna and Melissa are now having a chat in the chat about this specific topic. I think it's a good one to be able to bring up, and the fact that we thought that social listening would have broken out of its silo by now, but it seems that we've still got work to do. It's not quite made it there. Is there anybody that's in the chat that's online today that's actually managed to break social out of its silo that can maybe offer a few words? We can bring you into the studio, but back to our panelists while we're waiting for that to happen, if it miraculously happens. This is a huge challenge. What kind of steps are you taking just now to try to get social out of its silo and integrated across the org?
I'm doing a lot of hand-holding with my colleagues. What question are you trying to answer? What do you already know? Lisa made the point earlier about, people coming to social listening. I forget how you phrased it, Lisa, but as you were saying it, I was thinking, people think social listening is like magical, like we can answer questions through social that, I have literally had a person say to me, I couldn't answer this question through any other kind of research. Can you help me with social listening? No, because, if you can't ask them directly and get the answer, they're not going to be organically talking about it on social media, So, sometimes there is that challenge. So I've tried to do a lot of tell me what you already know, and then let's figure out together how we could bring in social to just kind of append or, help expand your story, illustrate your story better. You know what I mean? And so, hopefully that's helping break it out of the silo, but I guess we'll see what happens.
Anyone else doing anything like this?
I can add something here, Gillian. Like, usually I say I can find some small proofs, of our concept work. For example, in a situation that app reveals friction points more clearly than a interview itself, because sometimes interview and focus group and etc. Sometimes, just like I said, the moral situation and the groups itself. So many people usually don't say with spontaneous or in a way that methodological research do. So sometimes social works, but this kind of situation, it's not clearly for me. I think this is the challenge. I think all of us are facing the same challenge here, because it's always about the people and the work that you do. I can say, yeah, I think the group itself, like you need to be aware of the situation and to be friends, like it's all about the people first, not about the process. Like the 3P, people, process, and projects. So we need people to do process and we need people to do projects as well. So I think human first, always, to minimize the situations.
I completely agree. And to build on Melissa's point about, people coming and wanting to, they think it's magical and they want the data. And I think that, there's certainly, and I'm sure many of you can relate, the demand is there. Like people want social data. They want it very quickly. Like they're excited about it. They've seen glimpses of it and know its potential. But to Melissa's point, sometimes people kind of have too high of expectations. They think, it's magical or, can read people's minds. But also, I think that like the biggest challenge that I have in not keeping social data in a silo on our team is like, I know people want it, people come to us, but in my experience, in just my observations and my own experience, a lot of times our social listening teams are pretty small and mighty. So the biggest challenge is bandwidth. And I don't mean to contradict Anna's point about it's all about the human touch, because it is. But I'm hoping this can be a place where like Gen AI can help, because as speaking to the importance of the human touch, I mean, we all know that like, if we just, I'm sure many of us have experienced, if we just send over a dashboard which is valuable, but a lot of times, people will go into it periodically, they'll forget how to use it, they see the data, they don't really know what to do with it when they're in there. And that's where we come in and why we're so valuable, because we take it and we translate it and we make it actionable and insightful. But, with 5 different teams across the organization, a lot of times that's not feasible because we have a large queue of insights work we have to do too. So I'm hoping with, a lot of the things that we can come in and help with, AI summaries and spike detection and those types of things are like continuing to get better and better. And they, may help like democratize and take it out of the silo. Because for me, and kind of circling back to Melissa's point, people are excited about it. They want to see it. They have a lot of trust in it, sometimes too much trust, but I think our biggest hurdle is bandwidth. And I think that I'm optimistic and hopeful that that's a place that Gen AI can come in and like give some of that hand holding, so that, more people can use it and it can be democratized without, 2 people in the entire organization having to, be the gatekeeper for all insights relating to social.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. Do you see that there may be, because there are some challenges with it. We're like, particularly with the Gen AI, and like we're seeing that a lot of people are starting to use it for topic modeling and segmentation and things like that. Doesn't always get that right though, and it doesn't, like there's still things it can miss. So do you think that as we start to progress through, because the examples that you gave, Lisa, were on the conversation volume increasing and all of that kind of things, do you think there's going to be some things it's better for than others, and that then we can then concentrate on the bits where we know we're going to be able to add more value?
Absolutely. And I think that that's a really, really important point, and something that I've found and feedback that I've given to different platforms. Like the AI powered topic clusters usually tell me nothing, especially in the instance of films. They just summarize the film. So like the out of the box solutions are not somewhere, but I mean, I completely understand, and I think like, exactly, Jillian, where it's most useful is like spike detection, of like understanding what's driving a spike, or if we're doing some like existing segmentation where we can go in and categorize. So using the example around trailer launches, if I ask, if I upload the data into ChatGPT or use the AI living within some of the social listening tools and say, okay, like what are people talking about, or how do people feel about this trailer? It usually doesn't give me anything of value at all. But what I've found helpful is like asking really specific questions that like I'm seeing, okay, with our film Good Fortune, I'm seeing a lot of people excited about Aziz Ansari's comeback. So with that, I kind of see it in my initial pass, and then I can take the data and then prompt AI and say, how many people are excited about this, or how many people are talking about Seth Rogen, and those really like specific questions. Because I think that that's such an important point, Jillian, that the topic analysis isn't quite there yet. A lot of times understanding the context and the human sentiment and everything's not there. So I think maybe with dashboards, et cetera, like if we can do that initial like data segmentation and then maybe get it a layer deeper, then that can be something that, but I completely agree. A lot of the out of the box AI solutions, or even just uploading data into ChatGPT, is not very insightful. And that's where we come in.
Brilliant. Excellent. Well, we're at time, but I want to ask everybody one final just round robin question. Is if you could make one change about how people work with social data today to actually start connecting the dots between all of these different data sources and everything, what would that be? Alex, why don't you kick us off?
Look, I think we have a structural challenge in the industry. We have the regulator or the regulators in the different geographies. We have the US and the European Union in a big fight. On the other hand, you have the big platform providers. We have a very creative industry. New tools are popping up every day. New social media channels are popping up every day. So this makes our life exciting, but not necessarily easier. Yeah. So it would be great if we, I don't know, at least some sort of organization, like a governing body, that could agree on some basic principles. I think this would make our life, everybody, the vendor, the customer, everybody, much easier. So I'm not sure it's going to happen, especially with all the political changes that are happening. But if I were to make this one wish, it would be, please, industry, come together. Let's agree on something.
Alex, this is what we're doing here. This is what we're doing. And you're part of that initial group. So this is what we're doing. It is happening.
You see, for the second time, I'm selling the seal up here.
I'm so confused. You already know this is what we're doing. We are it's going to be a slow rollout, but yeah, we are moving. Anna, what about you? Any way that you think that you would like people to change and blend data, to be able to blend data sources?
Well, for me, we need to continue to do this. More Observe Summit, more webinars, more Social Intelligence Lab for us, of course, because just like Lisa said, and I will point this as well, we need to be around more with more people, usually in our jobs, because the real value comes when we connect other layers, just what we said here, behavioral, contextual, even offline situations. And social data is great, but it obviously it's not a miracle. So we are trying to do this every day in a very different situation. So I think we are all at the same page right now. For me, 2025 and 2026 is be more together, and we need to talk more about the issues that we don't know how to understand, to involve, but together I think we can go further. I don't know, I'm kind of optimistic here.
No, but that again, it's about to happen, Anna. It is about to happen after 5 years of, it's about to happen. Lisa, over to you now. Any final words on this?
I completely agree. Like, these types of industry and events within our community are very helpful, and I think they empower us. And I think one of the keys is that we're educated, which we all are. We're in the trenches every day on the value that social listening adds, the social intelligence adds, and like the limitations as well. And I think the most impactful thing we can do is, be very like strong advocates for social listening, but also to your earlier point, Jillian, about like really setting, and Melissa, I believe you made this point as well, it's like setting the guardrails for social listening too. And so I think it's really important, these types of sessions empower us to speak, very passionately and confidently to the impact and the guardrails. And I think that I completely agree with everyone that that's a really important step, as we continue to break out of our silos.
Okay, no, we're all agreeing here. This is great. Melissa, are you agreeing, or are you
I'm just going to agree more too. Yes, I mean, everyone here is a passionate advocate for social listening data. We're all using it, and so the change I'd love to see happen is it breaks out of the silo a little bit more and gets sort of more injected into what I'd like to see is that, regular insights professionals consider social listening just one more tool in the insights toolbox. It's not this magical thing. It's not this siloed standalone thing. It's not this, strange newcomer. It's a tool that we're all comfortable using where it's the right application for that data source.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think one of the challenges is, though, that it's not officially a research methodology. It's a process. And it's oftentimes related quite strongly to technology. So I think that puts the biggest blocker on it. So I have a very I've got a kind of way forward, a solution for potentially some of this that we will be rolling out within the next few months. But it's good that what's been really clarifying for me is that we're all thinking around the same ways, and there is a definite need and desire for everybody to be able to do more to bring social intelligence to the table in their organizations. And from today, there is a way that we can be able to blend these different research methods and bring people along on that journey, and potentially sometimes inserting yourselves into projects that you might not necessarily have been part of unless you've gone out and found them in the organization. So we've still got quite a lot of people with us. So what I'm going to do is just thank you to all of our panelists today. I've really enjoyed the discussion. It's been great. And to everybody in the chat. And just to let everybody know, you're hearing this ahead of time. The Insider 50 nominations will open very, very, very soon, as in this week soon. So please get thinking about potentially nominating yourself, or if there's someone that you work with, or if there's someone else on your team, nominate them. We have a Rising Stars category, and it always it flabbergasts me the amount of senior managers that we get coming into the Rising Stars category. We don't want your senior managers. We want your junior new starts that are actually adding a lot of value into your team. So please, please, please think about that. And the other category that we struggle with sometimes as well is our change makers category. Now, this one, I really see this one as being more of a lifetime achievement award. So who are the big people that have made a significant impact within the industry that's helped to shape something? And they're the types of people that we want to hear from for that. But very exciting is this week we will open, and nominations will be open until November the 9th. So get your thinking caps on. We would really love to see more nominations come in from different people. And you can nominate yourself. You do not need to wait for somebody to nominate you. And I would always say that the nominations that are self-nominated are a little bit stronger. I know it's icky writing about yourself, but just take some time and think about it. And I'm talking to all of our panelists that's on here as well. Although Melissa's in the Hall of Fame and she's been excluded from that now, but she is a judge. So, but she cannot be sweet talked because we do not allow that here. So please think about your nominations, and thank you again to everybody. We're running 10 minutes over nearly, for coming in to join us this afternoon or this morning, wherever it is that you are. I've thoroughly enjoyed this, and we'll see you again next time. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.